We do have to get on with the meeting. So I do have a question. Who wants to run the meeting tonight?
My understanding is I am now chair.
Well, if that's the case, then you get to run it.
I will start. Shall we call it to order?
We shall.
And I have 6:03 as the official time. Who else is on this committee?
Polly, right?
Okay. Very good. I just wondered. So curriculum update.
Yep. Patty, do you just want me to share my screen?
Yeah, if you can, because I'm taking minutes.
Yep. I might need you to give me permission.
Oh.
Yep. It says host disabled.
I wish all the trees were in bloom behind you.
I know they're still pretty drab, but hopefully soon.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. Oh my gosh, today was beautiful.
I see the pears are starting to swell downtown.
How do I do that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can't wait. And
It should be in your
flowers.
settings, Patty. There should be the little like.
There.
gear.
I just turned it on. See if you can now.
Yep, I got it.
Okay,
Cool.
Thank you.
Good.
that was luck.
Can you guys see my screen?
No,
Yes.
not at all. I'm kidding.
Rick, can you see my screen?
Yes, very well.
Thank you. I trust Rick. Okay. All right, so I just wanted to go through some quick curriculum updates tonight. I feel like it's been a while since I've given you just a little bit of an update at where each curricular department is in the process of curriculum development. So I'm not going to read through all the information on tonight, but I did want to have a place where you could kind of come to look to see where each department is. Math department K-12 is currently implementing new curriculum this year. So we're in the process of implementing that curriculum. Elizabeth, you were on the committee last year when we approved all of that curriculum. So we are working through implementation this year. It's going pretty well for the first year of implementing something new. We've had minimal hurdles, which is great. And especially at our elementary, we're seeing really, really engaging instruction, and we're seeing kids really dive into higher cognitive levels of mathematics and focusing on those higher cognitive skills, which is great to see. Currently, we are developing curriculum in the areas of business, FCS, health and PE, as well as science. So we are very busy right now and with those 4 content areas in the development process.
Can I interrupt just one second?
Yeah.
A question or just a statement, because I'm thinking, tomorrow night is this open meeting on I wouldn't call it violence, but
Right.
security. Campuses. Wouldn't, from my background teaching health and PE students, usually we're incorporating decision-making, anti-bullying,
Yes.
bystander issues, those are all, I assume, part of an FCS and health and PE.
Yes.
So that could be something, somehow we need to talk about that as the board. And
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the new health and PE outcomes that the state is in the process of approving is actually, I'm going to get into that in a minute, but I can kind of skip there now. Let's do that. So we worked with Rick, I'm sure you know Dr. Riddell and Dr. Allen,
I do.
because they were on the state level team that created the new state standards for K-12 health and PE education. And so we worked with them to put these new outcomes into play with the new curriculum. We're actually the first school district to use the new outcomes to develop curriculum. So we're really proud of that. But a huge bucket of the new outcomes are what they're calling healthy relationships. And that's everything from what you're talking about, Rick, with anti-bullying, bystander awareness, just overall healthy social skills, coping mechanisms. And so that is a strand of the new standards that is going to be really, really important.
Is that for all grades or is this just for starting at?
It's the healthy relationship starts in kindergarten and goes up through 12th grade.
Wow, great.
So there's a lot of good language in there that's developmentally appropriate for getting students to think about even conflict resolution and kind of those concepts that I think we know, especially post-pandemic, that we really need these social skills. And we need students to start thinking about conflict resolution as soon as we can.
Great. That's lovely news. Thank you.
So I don't know, Rick, what the best avenue for that would be. Because we haven't approved this new curriculum yet. What we could do is even just share the new standards as they relate to healthy relationships, because I think your point is valid that there's a lot of content in these new standards that need to be, or they're going to be taught, and that we are addressing or will be addressing as a K-12 system. So
Yeah,
can-
I'm trying to think where to share that with the rest of the board, and then
and I can send you, if you want, the document of the standards. The nice thing about the new health and PE standards is that they're written in they're easy to read. They're not, a lot of standards are in like educator speak, which if you hand it to somebody who's not in our realm, it gets confusing, but these are actually really well written. And I think a lot of people would find them easy to read and understand.
Rick, a good spot for that would be during the committee reports.
okay.
That's true.
That's when it would be good for you. You want to discuss what happened at the meeting, and then you can actually talk about what all's going on.
And does that provide that document you're talking about, kind of like a crosswalk?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. I can send this committee that document just so you can look over it in totality. But I think what you would be able to share with the full board could really hit on that concept of healthy relationships.
Thanks.
There's also a lot in there really, really heavy on mental health and teaching from an early age the really important aspects of being mentally well. And so I think that's a huge part of what we're seeing, not only in our community, but nationwide in terms of, safety concerns. So health and PE, we've been working for over a year, and we are planning to bring this committee a draft version of the curriculum at our April meeting. So we're about a month away from being to the point where we feel like we can bring you the draft when we're really excited about that. So be on the lookout for that next month. We're excited about that. When you open this presentation, what you're going to see is that we have designed this curriculum a little bit differently than we have some of the curriculum in the past. And the reason is because at several of the conferences that we've been at, there's been this push towards more student-centered and family-centered curriculum documents so that parents and families and students know what we're teaching and why we're teaching it and why it matters. Because we feel like right now students aren't always engaged in what and can't always articulate what they're learning and why they're learning it. So this new kind of concept of storyboarding is, what's the story of the course that you're taking? What's the story of the unit that you're studying? Why does it matter? Is really kind of the lens that we've taken through health and PE. So when you see every single unit in health and PE, when you guys see this next month, which Rick, I think this is exactly kind of what you're thinking about too here, is talking as every unit starts off with cooperative skills and positive behavior. What qualities do you need to be a good citizen in our school? And that's how every unit is going to start, connecting the expectations of the school to wellness classes and thinking about how we need to act to make this a fun, safe, and adventurous learning environment. So a lot of connections there too. So you guys can kind of see that example. I'm going to go real quick to business and FCS. They are also working on draft versions of their curriculum. Business is currently working to make some edits as we prepare to move them into the CTC realm. They've had to make just a few edits to their curriculum to make that align. FCS department, the Family Consumer Science department, is editing their curriculum that they've come up with to just ensure the relevancy of skills in our course offerings and making sure everything is exactly how we want it. We do anticipate that if everything goes well over the next few months, that we would be able to bring you that curriculum in June. And then health and PE, like I already said, will be next month. And then, excuse me. Additionally, we have kicked off K-12 science curriculum development. This is also really exciting because these are brand new state standards that were just approved last year. So we are working with brand new curriculum, brand new standards, and kind of developing things from the ground up, which is really exciting because we want science to be inquiry-based. We want it to be phenomena-based. We want students to be digging into these scientific concepts and principles and really taking on the role of a scientist, and kind of starting with that inquiry stance. So we have partnered with Bald Eagle area and Penns Valley school districts to collaboratively create curriculum because everybody's in the same boat right now. Everybody has these new standards and they have to make sure that their curriculum is aligned to it. So we got together and we're like, why would we all tackle this separately when we're kind of better together? And if we can bring our heads together and bring our teachers together, we are confident that we can come up with a really great end product because we've worked collaboratively to do that. So we've had 2 days together. We actually have a day together tomorrow, again, to continue to work on this curriculum, and we'll continue our work throughout this summer. And then in science for 7-12, our teachers are getting ready to do a 2-day training on the new standards because we do really believe that professional development is the key to kind of meeting the shift of science instruction. If we don't train our teachers first, then we're going to kind of always have what we've always had. And that's not what we want. So we're going to invest in some really good professional development. And then we're going to be working this summer to develop the secondary science. We do anticipate that by spring of next year, that we could bring you a draft curriculum to look for implementation in the 24-25 school year. And that would be 1 full year prior to when we're required to implement based on the adoption of the new standards. So we're excited about that. Just some other updates kind of outside of the curriculum cycle that we're working on that we wanted to make sure that we communicated. Schedules for the secondary schools are currently being created. So the building principals are working on creating their building level schedules. And if you remember at last month's board work session, when we gave the achievement update, we talked a lot about the data that we were seeing in 7th and 8th grade ELA and math. And if you kind of remember, our data looked really, really good. And then it kind of started to go downhill in 7th and 8th grade. And we want to address that. So one of the things that we're doing is proposing some schedule changes for 7th and 8th graders so that they get English and math instruction every day. Right now, they get it every other day. So like if I have, and Roger, you probably know this from your own child, but they're kind of on what we call an A-B schedule. So they have maybe ELA one day, math day the next day, and then they go back to ELA and then math. So there's sometimes a lot of disruption in there because if you throw in a 4-day weekend or early dismissal or a delay or whatever, sometimes they can go 6 days without seeing that teacher again. And that is problematic. So
a question for you, what happens over the summer for the students who are like at the very bottom and need?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we currently we run our Keystone Camp. That's what we use our ESSER money for learning loss on, is we run a summer program. And what we try to do first is we try to target those students who are showing minimal growth or are basic or below basic on PSSA predictive measures. And so we invite those students first. Typically we'll invite them by a flyer, a parent meeting, a parent phone call, a student conference, and try to get them to come to our Keystone Camp to help them have some continuous instruction over the summer. Because we know, all the research shows us that the learning loss that happens over any summer is substantial, but especially those students who are lower achieving and or from poverty, which a lot of our students are experiencing both of those.
So Megan, we are having it this summer, but next summer, the following summer, we don't have funding for it, right?
Correct. ESSER has to be used by September of 24. So depending on our funding, this would be 22. This would be the summer of 23. We could offer it one more year if our funding allows for that. Additionally, though, we've been kind of looking at and researching additional grant opportunities that might exist after ESSER is over, because we really believe that summer instruction, even if it's a shortened day and small bits, is really, really important, especially in our community. We need to maintain some level of instruction for our neediest students, but also just the students who are willing and eager to learn and want to come in and want to do fun activities and want to come for the socialization and the consistent meals. We know that's all really important parts of our summer programming. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to find other grant money once ESSER is over to be able to continue some version of this. So anyway, just kind of back to the ELA, we're working to make sure that we can get English and math instruction every day because we know it's super important. Additionally, this is kind of a project that we're working on too that we wanted to keep you in the loop on. For those of you, Elizabeth and Roger, I know this is going to look super familiar because we've talked about these tiers of support for academics for several years now, but you'll see it used to be the triangle, right? With the green, yellow, and red. Now
Right.
it's on its side because now that we've had that triangle and we've had the interventions in place for our lower level learners, it's just as important that we start having conversations about our above grade level learners and our advanced learners, and making sure that we have the adequate instructional supports in place for those students, just as we do for the lower level students. So what we're working to do is add some really targeted enrichment supports as we continue our MTSS process. And most likely for next year, that would mean adding those supports at the elementary level. And it wouldn't be a requirement of adding staff or anything like that. It's just using our what I need time structure and making sure that we're being just as systematic and just as explicit with our highest level learners as we are with our lowest level learners. So that's something that we're tackling, and it's exciting work. So the triangle becomes a diamond.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Megan. I love this new system you came up with and this information. Because that's always been a conversation. The priority was always X, but now you're talking about Y, which is fantastic. When you say you most likely won't need more staff, I hope you're right. But if you find that these students they have such a skill set that the board just would deeply appreciate that if the children that have special, they're in the top tier. And I just want to make sure that we always know that if there's outside work that needs to be done with additional staff, I don't know if you want to call them tutors, I don't know what the right word is, but please let us know, because I'm just going by a parent that told me something. He was so excited at the beginning of the year that his daughter, they found out her math skill level is just off the charts. And the teacher, I guess, reached out to the parents to explain that, to see if they'd be interested, so their daughter can go to some next level training in her same grade level. Now, I haven't spoken to that parent since they told me this, so I have no idea. But I just hope that there's never a lag between when a parent's told and they get all excited, but then there's not the in-classroom support to get the program off and running. So
Right.
we're counting on you to make sure that if you need to make sure that there's no like couple months in between that first phone call and when the child's actually working on those programs, okay?
Okay, yes, I appreciate.
Megan, if
yeah.
I'm not mistaken, we already have an individual that is assigned to assist in these higher level tiers. Is that correct?
Yes, we have Rebecca Gigino, who is our gifted coordinator, and kind of the way that she's functioning now is that based on that, so every student has district-wide has a what I need time. And so where students are during that time is based on their achievement level and data measures that we use to kind of place them in like groups based on their skill level. So what Rebecca is currently doing is working with the teachers who have those students who are in that blue and teal area, because she works with them to come up with strategies and activities and really great, some really great projects that those students can do during what I need time to enrich them and drive them forward. And sometimes that's also some talent development of what are these students interested in doing and how can we help foster the skills that they need to do that, whether it's competitions like Math 24, reading competition. So that's kind of her realm, is that she's really supporting teachers so that teachers can support students because she's a person. But if she can work with teachers, then we can scale that a little bit better than if we could just her working directly with students only. Does that
Sounds
make-
good.
And Megan, a question for you. How does every building in the school district have a librarian or librarians?
They
that
do.
Work with the teachers and the students and
Yeah,
who are
they-
certified librarian,
Yes, they do. Now at our elementaries, our librarians do split buildings, so they have multiple buildings, but our students have library as like an elective in the 6-day cycle at elementary. And then we also offer a lot of electives at the middle school. But every building does have a librarian, not necessarily full-time, but
How
access.
about at the high school? How many librarians are, I'm just curious out of the,
We really only have half of one at the high school currently, because
for
she's,
all the students at the high school, only half a librarian?
yeah, because it is a split
Wow.
position right now.
That's a
But that's
problem.
about half.
Why?
I think historically, I think this comes before my time. We never offered any library related electives at the high school level, which I would like to see changed because there's some great opportunities for really great research classes. And just, the world of library science is pretty vast. And so we could
Yeah.
offer some really great electives. We've just never created those electives. So
Mm.
library is up on the curriculum cycle in 2024. And I would like to see us kind of ramp up our course offerings in that area. Because I think because there weren't courses being run, then it was just kind of generally seen as that support isn't as needed at the
And what could
elementary.
this committee do to push that issue that, we should really have? I can't imagine a high school without a full-time librarian all the time.
Yeah, and I think part of it too, Rick, is that a lot of the research skills, the information literacy, the digital literacy, a lot of those skills too are embedded in our ELA, in our English courses with our English teachers. So I think that we're covering a lot of that content already. It's just not with a separate person. But I think the best way to support long-term is that as we're developing curriculum, that we have your support of potentially adding some course offerings, because you can't run courses without the people to teach them then. So I think long-term, that's how we support, because currently we don't have course offerings. So while they could be there to support students in library doing research, I do think our English teachers have a pretty good handle on that right now.
Are they still teaching the Dewey Decimal System?
Oh, geez.
No.
I didn't think so.
That word was taken out of the dictionary
I'm just,
a
you
couple
know,
years ago, Roger.
That's back there with that Common Core math of 1 + 1 = 3, right?
yeah, exactly. Actually, I thought it was
Sorry for the
5.
interruptions, Megan. Go ahead.
No, that's all great conversation. I always appreciate the conversation. So then the last kind of update that I have bleeds into the next agenda item as well. But back in January, we brought you a draft version of the comprehensive plan. PDE has since January, PDE has released some additional information that is required to be in the comprehensive plan, which is why we kind of paused and kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, because we learned about these things after we had created our draft, which is good. We were ahead of the game, but then they kind of changed the game. So
Imagine that.
yeah, I know. So we had to edit a little bit and kind of make some adjustments. The good thing about this is that, thinking back to last month's data presentation, basically what the comprehensive planning process is asking us to do is take a really deep dive into our current data and then couple those things with all of the state mandated requirements of a comprehensive plan and tailor your plan then to your district. So if you actually, let me flip over to I think you have a paper copy of this, right, Patty?
Yes.
Okay. This is just kind of a 1-page summary of the comprehensive plan, because what we actually submit to PDE is a really lengthy document that is a little cluttered and kind of hard to understand. So we created this just 1-pager of our main goals. So if you look at the ones that I'm highlighting here on my screen, basically our academic goals relate directly to that data that we covered last month about making sure that we're using our multi-tiered systems of support system to ensure that we see a growth in the number of students who are meeting their projected growth. And our data shows that the number of students in an economically disadvantaged category don't show as much growth as our non-economically disadvantaged students, which means that's something that we need to be strategic about improving.
I'm sorry, Megan, could you please repeat those 2 sentences about the economics? I don't see it here. So what was that?
Yep. So it's basically that our first goal is to specifically target economically disadvantaged students. And because our data shows that those students aren't meeting their projected growth at the same rate that our non-economically disadvantaged students are. And that's a lot of tongue twisting words, but so our first goal is specifically targeted towards making sure that we're pouring supports and services and strategies into meeting the needs of our economically disadvantaged students, which in our district is nearly 60% of our students. So when you compare how those 60% are doing versus how the 40% are doing, they aren't growing at quite the same rate. Now their growth is still good. It's just not quite as good as the 40%. So we want to make sure that we're closing that gap. And that's what this goal here is. It's just the implementation of the evidence-based supports to make sure that it leads to a 15% increase in the number of students who meet their projected growth.
Okay, I'm gonna jump off the bus a little bit on this. You know, I love data. Something that has been back on my list from a couple years ago. Has the district, or do you know of any other districts that have done this? When they look at the economically disadvantaged children, do they also map on a large map where that individual lives? And if yes, do you see hot spots within our district that might be a future interest where we may actually take a program to those hotspots or some other off-campus contact?
Like a
Yeah.
summer program or
Could be any-
housing project.
There's a million,
program or so- I mean,
million different
things.
ways, million. Just out of curiosity, have we ever done that?
Well, actually, the state does that for us. So they give us the data for by building, for example. So like our highest economically needy school is Robb Elementary. They are about 76% economically disadvantaged. Seconded by Renovo Elementary, which is don't quote me on the exact number, but it's close to 70% as well. So the state actually gives us that data because that is actually how we get our federal money. So our federal money has to go to the neediest schools based on economic disadvantage or advantage first. So we spend the most amount of money per pupil at Robb Elementary because they're the most economically needy, followed by Renovo, followed by Liberty Curtin, followed by Mill Hall, and then lastly Woodward's. That's just our elementary buildings. So
Okay.
we actually know which buildings are concentrated with students who are economically disadvantaged, and definitely put more support and more money behind those already. But I think part that we can do better is the community outreach and the parent outreach, because we know that typically those parents are hard to engage. They're hard to get into our buildings, and that's usually not a fault of their own, but sometimes they're working multiple jobs and they have multiple children, and childcare is an issue, transportation's an issue. And so we've definitely played with ideas of how do we get to them? If they're not going to come to us, then how do we get to them? And so I know Tyler Barth, since he's been here, has been doing a lot of going out to the community rather than asking the community to come to our schools. And I think he's made a lot of good progress there, but we still have a long way to go. And you know, the ideas of bringing the bus to to the low income housing is something we will always entertain, because we have to be able to meet our kids where they're at. And often in the summer, there are other barriers that we want to be able to overcome.
Okay, so that's incredible information. Thank you. But my question is, have we ever mapped where those children actually live? So that would dictate the neighborhoods with the hotspots.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think we've ever mapped it on an actual map. But I think that, I think we could easily find some trends that we could run with, because of the low income housing, particularly,
Well,
that feed into Robb.
Like the
here's
birdhouses,
the
like,
here's the thing, Elizabeth.
Mhm.
If you take a look at the information that she just presented, Robb is the highest, economically disadvantaged. Okay, so if you take a look at that,
circle.
why would they be the most economically disadvantaged? Let's look right around Robb and kind of get an idea of the people that are going to Robb. Well, you got the housing units down there by Piper. Then you also have the housing units up by First Quality. They are going there. So and in order to be in those housing units, you have to be economically disadvantaged. So if you take a look at that, that is your target group. You can see it's that whole section right there. So, I mean, you don't need to know where every
And more
person
rentals
lives.
too. There are
Yeah,
more
a
rental
lot more.
properties in the city.
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation with the one guidance counselor from, maybe it was from Robb. I'm trying to think. And he was saying as the enrollment has dropped at LHU, all these student rentals have been vacant. And what they were starting to
Mhm.
find in the last 1 or 2 years is those landlords seem to be almost marketing their lower rents to Bellefonte and Williamsport. and some of the needier families were
Mhm.
moving here because they could get cheaper rent.
Versus Williamsport or State College. So
Um,
that's,
and
that
they-
was
but
sort of
they're
where I'm
bringing the
going.
Problems.
That's
I
where
mean,
I'm so, thank you,
that's
Rick. I'm
interesting.
interrupting, but that's sort of where I'm going because please, I know your guys, folks already have too much on your plate, but this is something that's been back in my mind. And then that conversation that Rick just shared is if there was a map of the boundaries of Rob, we'll say, and then where the families of the children that are in this 76%, there was a dot, no names, no, just a dot. Then the city of Lock Haven has their zoning and where all the rentals are. And then that's layered on top of that. And I know that sounds like, what would you do with that data? But there's actually things that could be done with that data, working with the city of Lock Haven, but I don't want to go there right now. It's too much noise right now. But I'm just saying it would be I think it would be powerful data at the right time.
Well, and I think too, it's always good conversation with the city of, how sometimes their decisions impact our environment and what we're able to do, and sometimes unintended consequences too.
Yes, and I'm sure they,
Find out, or
well,
believe.
you understand, and so I'll let it go, but maybe sometime in the future, we can have maybe a deeper talk on this if there's.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks.
So the second goal related to academic growth is that all students would meet their projected growth in math, and that we would see a 15% increase in the number of students who meet their projected growth in math. So that's a pretty standard academic goal as we're implementing new math curriculum and also putting in some targeted interventions for students who aren't meeting their growth. Their overall goal is that we increase the number of students who are meeting their projected growth. And then when we come to that social, emotional, and behavior side of the MTSS model, what we want to do is use the MTSS model for behavior and social emotional wellness for the usage of the supports in that system to contribute to a decrease of the number of behavioral class disruptions by 15%. So we know behavior is kind of the highlight of conversation right now. And what we see in our Swiss data is that class disruptions are the number one reported incident. And that can vary, as I'm sure your conversations have probably covered. But we want to see the MTSS process help reduce the number of students who are being reported for class disruptions. And we want to see that decrease by 15%. So that would be 15% over the course of the comprehensive plan. And we believe that is attainable. We just need some time for those supports to start working.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you do us a favor for your final sheet? Just spell out what MTSS means.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Are you okay if I just do this too?
Yeah.
Here we go. And then our last main goal for the comprehensive plan is, as you know, and we're part of the comprehensive planning process, we did develop the draft of the profile of the learner. And so our goal would be to develop, implement, and refine the projects that we're going to do to basically show student attainment of those skills. And the graphic is on this page for you. This is our draft. But we are continuing to collect feedback on this from students and from other stakeholders. And if any additional word changes need to be made, we're open to doing that up until the board approves it as a part of the comprehensive plan. But we want to create those capstone projects. We think it's going to be a really engaging process for students to be able to dive into personal interest and learn about something that they're excited to learn about, and show us how they are responsible citizens, effective communicators, creative problem solvers, and respectful collaborators. So those are the main goals of the comprehensive plan. And basically the thought is that we would share this with the full board at the April work session. Which I believe is what, the 13th, it's later.
Yeah. the second
Yes.
one, right. Mhm.
So we would share this with the full board and collect feedback and do anything that we need to do to move to the next steps.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much.
You, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, Kurt.
Okay, since you finished your presentation, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
The STEM versus STEAM. Is the trend going back now just to STEAM, or is the trend more for the schools to go and embrace STEAM, or is it just basically equal?
I feel like the trend is leaning towards STEAM.
Okay.
I feel like that's been what I've been seeing a lot more of in the last few years, especially the last year, is integrating the arts. I don't know though, to be honest, how many of those STEAM-based schools are truly integrating the arts. I think it's one of those things that is easy to say you're doing, but doing it in actuality is a little bit more difficult. But I would love to see us integrate the arts. And I think a lot of times we already have examples of how we've integrated the arts into our STEM. But I think it's something that we need to continue to develop.
I know one of our students just recently went to the Naval Academy for a weekend trip, and he was actually invited back over the summer.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
they did STEM. It was STEM, not STEAM.
Yeah,
That's how their curriculum was set up, was around the STEM.
yeah.
So
That's a cool opportunity.
they're very cool. I mean, he's got a brain on him. Whenever he's motivated, he's really good. When he's not, man,
He
oh.
likes focus.
So yeah,
Well, hey, we all like to learn about things we like more than we like to learn about things we don't
yeah.
like. So
Well, if he actually gets into the academy, he won't have a lack of focus. I can guarantee that.
well,
So.
that's great. Yeah.
Thank you, Raj. And my last question, when, I'll be honest with you, I have something in the back of my mind, so I'm not gonna bring it up right now, but I can't understand when I Google STEM versus STEAM, when they say the arts, is it just up to the school district, or is there actually a mandate that says what the A stands for? in STEM?
No. Yeah, it's just the broad term of the arts, and I think how you interpret the arts is up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Because some people even will argue that the arts should include languages. So it can be as big or as little as I think each district wants to take it. And I've seen it kind of all over the place.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Very good. We're ready. CTC.
All right, tonight a little bit about CTC updates. We're gonna start construction trades. Since the last meeting, we are now a PA Builders Association endorsed program. That's a gold standard for the state. So I can check off that box. We went through a review, an audit, a paper trail. It took like a year and a half. And finally, the end of February, beginning of March, I got my paper in my hand. So that's good for 4 years, I think. Then we go through another audit, but so that gives kids an opportunity to get on the national registry. If they pass a NOCTI with a advanced, there's a PA builder certificate that comes with that then.
Wow.
Really?
We pay an add-on and then they get that. Along with PA builders, there's a green energy curriculum.
Oh,
So we're starting to look into green energy, where I have already looked at trainers for solar, wind, and things like that to
Perfect.
incorporate with NRM and construction trades. And along with that, if you see later there a little bit, we talked a little bit about a solar installer certification. There's two major certs, North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, NACEP. And there's the Bright Solar Futures Program from the Department of Energy. We're looking into both of those, maybe to incorporate if we can. I have phone calls out to both. We found a local installer in the area that now joined our occupational advisory committee. He will be here next week. He was a graduate of here.
Mhm.
He installs solar, residential and commercial. He's going to join our drafting and design occupational advisory committee. I will have a discussion with him and see how far we can get as far as him doing the training. A lot of the training for the certification that came out 15, 16 years ago and died,
Mm.
but it was labeled, it was another name. So it's, you see the resurgence, you see it coming back. There is certs out there. Sometimes they're tied to like an apprenticeship for like IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, are tied through apprenticeships. They're also tied with, if you're with a contractor and they're certified, you do so much work under them, then you can go take the National Registry test and get certified to be an installer. So Mr. Probst and I have been looking at these solar panels and wind and stuff like that. We've already been looking into that, and it is in the curriculum for PA builders. So we'll get in more of that. I've got some pricing. I'm looking at some federal grants to try to pay for that because they're not cheap. You're talking 30,000-40,000 for a trainer. So
Oh, absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
it's something that I think
That's-
2 or
that's like
3
nothing
programs
to it.
can use. Currently off the topic, downstairs in the NRM program, we got a grant from the Ag Department, the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. He is currently building a solar kiln. So he will
That's
cut his own
impossible.
wood.
It's impossible.
He'll cut his own wood. He'll put it in this kiln. It's downstairs. It's on a wagon frame. We had to go get the wagon frame. His students are now building it. I didn't understand. It's a design from Virginia Tech University, but they've made some alterations to it. So he'll slide the wood in there and it'll dry it. So it's like a kiln. We don't have to fire up a kiln. It's a solar kiln.
And this is all with electrical elements.
No. It's all,
Well, that's what I mean. The electrical elements inside the kiln is run by the solar.
there's no electrical elements in it at all.
What it is it's just like.
It's like a greenhouse
It's a
effect.
greenhouse,
With fans. There'll be fans to pull out the
So-
moisture.
right?
But it's drying on its own. You don't have to slide it into an electrical kiln or a fired kiln years ago.
Right.
It's actually heated by solar, and we can pull it in and out with the tractor because we have it on a wagon base.
How much lumber can it do at once? I can't wait to see.
I
this
don't know,
thing.
John would
Let's-
have to answer those questions.
Can we have
That's
a tour
beyond my
someday?
scope. What's that?
Can we have a tour someday when things slow down?
Yeah, it's built. He has to put the roofing on. I was down yesterday, they're painting the inside black. It gets painted black inside. and
For heat.
It looks
Okay.
different. Yep, it looks impressive. I asked how it worked and kids were telling me how they think it's gonna work, you know.
They hope it works.
Yep, so that was a PA Department of Ag grant. So that's a little bit,
That's
he's teaching a little bit of
fantastic.
that. Then we look at health occupations. We've been talking about patient care technician. I brought to this committee a couple times. Finally we have some monies put aside for that I got through federal funds. The curriculum itself is $39,000, but it comes with EKG machines, phlebotomy arms. There's lists and lists of equipment, plus 30 seats, 30 tests, there's state license exams. It's good for a year, then I re-up it, and I can re-up it with federal money that I always get through Perkins. So I made a couple phone calls. I've been working on this for like 2 years. Actually, we put it in another school to try it. I talked to them and they jumped on it right away and they've put it in. The director change, I don't think they've done the fidelity they should do to get it in, but my teacher and I have looked at this and waiting for this money to come through and it's sitting there. So we finished off the proposal and I talked to some companies and they tell me it's the newest thing with the medical. What's the other one you were talking about?
Medical
Medical
assistant.
assistant. This is one step up yet. We teach in our program of study, you teach about 70-80% of these tasks already. So why not do
Just
another
go with the
20%? So it's not really it is an add-on, but it isn't because you're already teaching most of it. But it's the state licensure at the end. That's because it is $100 to $300 a seat for a kid to take it. But it's like at the university, they have their testing center. It would be given something like that, like a board certified test. But we can fund that. We'll certain kids and we can fund that.
And
through
so then
Perkins.
they're eligible for a job immediately?
Yeah, the
for-
company I talked to, it's actually Mike Fetzer's brother does work with nursing and first aid and stuff like that. And I called him, I said, what's the job? He said, how many do you have? And I said, well, none. I'm just looking at, is it worthwhile me spending this money, put it in the program, get the teacher certified, so I have students coming out to, he said, you just send me their names, I'll have a job next day. There's 3 major hospitals, UPMC, Geisinger, and Penn Highlands. They're all using PCTs. So it's another avenue. Talked to Lock Haven today. They're willing to, that she was very receptive to that idea. She knew all about it. And she said it was an apprentice pipeline from UPMC. She don't know where it is right now, but they'd be willing to, once I get it in, to offer advanced credit to get those students to maybe we call it scaffold or ladder career, where you might get this certification, then you go to nursing, then you go to this, then you go to this. So we're looking at the 2 of us building scaffold careers, because a lot of people want to go to work and they don't have the money right to go to college. So they scaffold that career, and we've talked about different pathways like that with this. I would hope to begin it in 23, 24. It's all dependent on Chelsea getting 4 days of training over the summer. I think it's 3 or 4 days, and we're willing to do that, and she's willing to do it. I think it's a benefit for the students.
Absolutely.
It's so much higher than the CNA. And I already got CNA training free this year. I have kids that are going to work at extended care on the far side of the hospital at UPMC.
Yeah.
They've hired, I think, 5 or 6 of our students, and they gave them free CNA training. They're going to start working there next year on co-ops. And we also have the Geisinger setting that they're going to take up, I think, to 7 kids next year. So the health hasn't shrunk, and it's only getting bigger. And I think PCT, if I can join with not only, well, Commonwealth and I talked about an agreement for adult training. They talked directly to me and said they know they can't put labs and stuff in like a CTC would have. So they know if they want to get in the market of technical skills, they have to partner with a local CTC, because it's unrealistic for them to stick all the money in the lab equipment that we have. So down the road, I think you're going to see more of that.
That's great.
Those partnerships happen. And then the last one on the list will be the NASA Hunch program. NASA has picked schools that basically will build parts for spacecrafts. We applied and they said, yes, they would accept us because we already have apprenticeships. We have all this stuff set up. They were very eager, but I told my teacher, you gotta wait till next year because I need to get it approved. And everybody says, yep, this will be we think we can do this. And we saw the first, they sent us the first drawing. He doesn't think it's anything. The kids can do it. And they would supply all the materials, the curriculum, the drawings, everything.
Do you have
And-
enough space? I'm not kidding. Do you have enough space?
What do you?
To do all the things that we're doing here, is
Make
there
it
enough
work.
room down there to actually facilitate all of these different programs that we have?
I gotta be straight up honest with you. I can facilitate what you want me to facilitate, but I need storage like you won't believe. I have
Bingo.
kids jammed everywhere.
There we go. Facilities
I'm not gonna
committee.
lie to you. Why
No.
should I sit here and lie to you?
That's why we need to know this because
I thought I had a free building coming to us. When I went through the PA builders, I was like really close to getting a free, like the building we have down back. And it's kind of still right there, but I don't want to put any,
Don't jinx it.
no, I'm kind of.
Yeah.
Somebody said I can get you
Okay.
space, because when they saw it, they said you need space. Not like, I have teaching space. But when you're teaching when you're teaching
I
things,
understand.
it takes storage like, and I'm sorry, when I go to Lowe's and they have a pile of lumber out back and it's a third of what it should be and they're gonna sell it to the school, I'm a pig, I buy it. Okay, because I know down the road, it's gonna cost you 4 times as much.
Mhm.
All right, and there's reasons I do certain things, or I tell my teacher, you know how they take pieces of wood off and some of them are nicked?
Yeah.
I can use that for buildings and they'll save me a pallet. Instead of paying $700, I pay $200. Why would I not buy it when they have it and then
Yeah.
try to put it somewhere and we can store it? But that's my biggest problem. I don't have space.
okay,
I don't have storage.
I'm sorry,
space.
Kurt, I'm interrupting, but I want to know if you feel comfortable. I'm on the facilities committee and I've been pushing for 2 years for another facilities building for storage, so it could be used in that capacity instead of trailers
Well,
everywhere.
what I did in my previous thing is we actually built something, but
I'm
lot
talking
of
about a
schools-
Morton
A lot
building.
of schools, what they do is they'll build like I want to say like a pole building. and they'll actually stall it out, like horse stall. Think of a horse stall.
Yeah,
And they put a gate on the front, and then every person gets a storage space in that building. And in the middle, sometimes we used to park some of the vehicles from auto.
and right now we're storing ours outside. So if I bring this up at the facilities committee meeting, the storage thing again, I just want to let you know, unless you don't want me to, I'm gonna mention that
My
maybe they-
teachers have been pounding me for storage because they feel like their places look like they're junked up because they have to have,
Oh, I know Fred's
Bill-
looking at trying to get those
he wants
lockers
more,
pulled,
the what? The
lockers
lockers.
pulled out from out front.
Yep.
we've been
just to get
talking about
storage
that for
space.
years.
And Bill Probst, I feel bad for him because construction trade teaches 5, like they teach masonry, electrical, house, your plumbing, everything up. 'Cause it's a jack of all trades type thing, and a kid gets a basis. Then usually a kid will go to a trade school and go to one thing, but they still have the basis to do others. And he tries to store everything everywhere, but it's hard, and he has 50 kids. So it's tough.
I got the picture. Thank you very much. Got it.
So I mean, the hunch program I think is good. During that look at the hunch program, I found out they have a culinary aspect of it. So last week we had PA Restaurant Association here. And I asked a woman about the culinary one. And I asked Vinny about it. And I think as long as it's okay with you, I'm gonna look into that too. They design a meal for astronauts. But I didn't know this. There's certain thing astronauts cannot eat while they're in space because they can't digest it. So the
Really?
kids have to figure this all out. The only
so
school
cool.
doing it in Pennsylvania right now is Milton Hershey.
Really?
They've done it for 2 years. I think we're gonna try to give it a shot.
That would be freaking awesome.
Question for
Freaking
you.
awesome.
Whenever you're doing this, learning about the meals and stuff like that, I'm just kind of curious as to, are they looking at package, taking them and packaging them
Yeah,
and doing stuff like that?
they do, yeah. They'll
You know what
take
this
your
is, right?
concept- No, I can't. hardly
Freeze
see.
dryer.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
just
I don't know
got it.
how they'll take your concept, they look at it, you work with an astronaut, you talk to them.
Oh, okay.
And then you develop this meal, and if it fits their requirements, they ship it to space. They goes with them.
Oh my
Like
God.
International Space Station has had some and stuff like that.
That's cool.
I mean, I think if we could pull it off, I need to sit with Mr. Kishbaugh yet, and we really dive in and look at it. But if we can pull off, the machine trades we're gonna do. I think it's doable. The teacher thinks it's doable. We
Right.
think we have kids that, really take on to that. The culinary we looked at, and I didn't even know it was there until I opened the page and looked at it. So I think there's 2 options there. I think it's pretty neat when you're a kid and you could say, hey, I made this part and it went, somewhere in space. So
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if, I don't think that has to go to board to be approved because it's just a concept.
Oh.
Well, no, but
this is
if you
great
brought
stuff.
it, up, whenever we're talking about these different things, I mean, whenever you give a presentation about this stuff, I mean, definitely bring that up. So,
This is great stuff. This is great stuff.
So they're all things I think you'll see next year.
very cool.
I just need to
And then
refine a couple
back
things.
to the other one about, I had mentioned to you prior to us beginning about bucktail.
Yep.
So it's practically impossible to do a program up there
No, you could,
because they don't have enough students.
so here's what they used to do up there. They had Bill Probst split and he up there. They were gonna run into problems after I got here because there was only 3 kids being clocked. But quickly I found out that there was like 13 being clocked down here, but if you move them down here, his number jumped to like 50 some kids. They don't like to carry a double program like that in 2 facilities when you don't have many kids, because CTCs are billed as regional CTCs normally, where you have one sits in the middle and districts feed to it. Here, you're on one, except Bucktail would feed. You're all in one district. But if you opened, I think the only way you could really do it is to take a program that like you're gonna open and put it there, but take kids from here and put them up there. you couldn't duplicate the same program. You just don't have enough bodies to even make it feasible.
Is there any type of program that somehow is related to the gas industry or something like that? So
There-
that could primarily be up there. I'm just trying to think of ways that to
There's-
encourage.
There's
economic
schools that have gone
development
through
out there.
that, but honestly,
It's died.
it took a dive, and even your universities or your community colleges have closed programs because they can't feed
Yeah,
it.
that's what I heard. of
Yeah,
Northeast
You're gonna look at more like if you had a pure welding program here, you would you'd probably have a waiting list, I would think. Kids take a lot of ag mechanics because it involves welding and then they want to go work on a pipeline. Now they hire people, but that's an F. Let me jump around. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You got me
I'm
started.
just-
The backside of this is last week I applied for an IMT apprenticeship, industrial manufacturing technician, pre-apprenticeship. The paperwork's done. It's sitting at Labor and Industry. I went through the ag mechanics class specifically because I knew there's none in the state that are tied that way. So I tied a year and it's ag mechanics, but you think, how would that fit to industrial maintenance technician? Well, think about everything on a tractor. Think about what they're doing. They're welding, they have the gears, everything like that. When I looked at an apprenticeship program, it fits a year. So if I get that approved by the end of the year, those kids, I already have set that they get an internship and they get a first interview. And then the businesses will feed them out. Every business in this piece right here around you needs those people. And I think they're sitting in your ag mechanics program. I don't think they're sitting in your machine trades program. And there's some things that led me to that. And one was PennDOT. PennDOT comes here for kids consistently. They have 3 right now. They had 3 last year and they hired every one of them. They're coming for welders and people that can think with their head and do hands-on machine type work on these big trucks and stuff like that.
They're all retired.
And they take every kid, and you know where the kids are coming out of? Not auto. They're coming out of ag mechanics. And they said those students there have what they need. So that tells me that those students can be an industrial maintenance technician.
That makes perfect sense.
So we already tied it. I applied, not this Monday, the Monday before. My paperwork went in. How long it'll take? You know how the state is, they're not in as much a hurry as we are. But it's under review. So that'll be your second pre-apprenticeship at Keystone Central. My third one will be in health. I just don't know where to go yet.
Wonderful.
If you look at the budget, there's gonna be money pumped. I'm hoping we hit that first grant we hit was 250,000. That'll end this year, but we're looking for the next one.
That's wonderful. So the students can't start any of your programs though until 11th grade, is that right? Ninth grade.
I
Now
have a
they-
9th grade exploratory,
That's what,
and
okay, I
then-
knew something.
then they
changed.
go
Good.
10, 11, 12.
Isn't that freaking awesome?
Now, what I think you will see is your numbers dip a little bit because your class sizes are dipping, so it's a natural.
But it's the same
succession.
percentage, basically.
Yeah, I never percentaged it out, but I could project that your numbers will dip a little, but you're at 553 starting on 10-1 this year.
Yeah, but
4 years ago, you were at 203. So, but your numbers for co-op, she just told me today, she has 25 kids already ready to go on co-op, started the school year.
Really?
That's the most you've ever had.
have you ever done a CTC program for the students during the summer so they can get credit during the summer? Or is that just that's too far in the future at this, with everything else going on?
Never did that one.
Okay.
We've done summer camps. but
Yeah,
we
no,
don't
not a
do-
camp, an actual credit. So maybe
No,
those.
never
bucks
thought of
I don't
that.
know.
Like I haven't in my career, but
Okay,
something you can always look at. Oh, the other thing I'm waiting for is I did go through the audit for state inspection downstairs. That was in late November. Still haven't heard a word and I've had people calling. I've put in phone calls, emails. That lady is just, I don't know what she's doing. She must have fell asleep at her desk and nobody found her yet.
It's PennDOT.
She's killing me.
It's the state.
oh, I'm so sorry.
So that's my update.
Okay.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
very diverse. I like that. And the
Yeah.
green energies. That's very exciting. Very exciting. What else?
Hey, as you potentially wrap up, I did send you guys all an email. I included Polly as well with the information about the health standards and the exact language from the standards that will help in the facilitation of the conversations about safety. So check your email for that.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you.
Megan, question for you. Is there a way that you could somehow get us the boundaries of each of the schools? And then just take a look and then, I mean, we could actually look and see what all's in that area.
Right.
We could do that ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that we have district boundary maps somewhere that then I can overlay the percentage of economically disadvantaged students within that sending area. Absolutely.
All right, just, you don't have to go through and put dots everywhere. I mean,
No, I want
just take
dots.
what, okay, so put like 3 dots
I want
somewhere. I don't care
dots.
where you put it.
I'll just use a big bingo stamper.
There you go, perfect. And there you go, you got the dots. All right,
Multiple colors.
so.
Megan,
All right,
are
Yeah.
you sitting down, like really sitting down and holding on to your chair?
I am.
If by the grace of God, I'm here next year, which I don't know why I wouldn't be, but you never know. 4-day school week.
uh,
I think you'd have a lot of happy staff members. I'm not sure you have a lot of happy parents.
Well, the stuff coming out of Texas and Florida, and I know
Yeah.
it's Texas and Florida, but it's really, I'm actually really impressed. It's about the whole life balance thing, and the
Right.
kids are happier, and they spend half a day tutoring then Friday morning. It's really awesome, but next year.
There's a lot of schools too who are kind of taking that concept and then they use the extra day of the week dedicated to professional learning.
Yes, that also.
So
They're
their
both.
teachers work 5 days a week, but 4 days, or students, 1 day is just dedicated to professional learning, which I love that model because we don't get enough time.
That's what yes, and the more, if you ever come across articles that are naysaying it, and if you could throw them my way, because so far I really haven't found a negative. I mean, a real negative, But okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, the only negative I've seen is just the cost of childcare that increases for parents because of needing an extra day. But I don't know that outweighs all the potential benefits. But
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, folks?
no, I think we're good.
Can we entertain an adjournment?
I make a motion for adjournment.
All in favor? Thank you both. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
guys.
Thanks,
A lot
Megan.
of good work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks all. Have a
A
great
lot of good
night.
work.
Yeah, you
Congrats
too.
to
Take
both
care of
of
that
you.
kiddo.
Yep.
Never ending.